I have had this set of Luminance for far too long. I think it's time that I finally break them out and use them. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here, also known as Caution Artist at Play. Welcome back to my channel. As many of you know, I love me some colored pencils. As you can tell by all these drawers back here filled with colored pencils. In fact, I have another set of drawers coming soon because I got more colored pencils. So I'm always buying colored pencils, and I've actually had this set for a while, but I hadn't used it yet because I wanted to use it on the channel, so I've had it set aside. I'm ready to put these pencils in my drawers with the rest of my Luminance. This is their portrait set, but I'm not going to use it for that. I don't do a lot of portraits anymore. I have done portraits. I love portraits. It's just not what I'm into right now. And I'm thinking something fall. I've been waiting for a while to figure out what I want to do with this color selection, and I think that this is going to be great for a fall piece. So I have these fun little squash that me and my husband have grown in our garden. We just harvested them. I took a bunch of pictures with them, and when I was looking at the photos, I was like, heck yeah, this is what I'm finally going to be using this set of portrait Luminance for. So I'm going to do a portrait of 3 little squash because I'm feeling fall. And I'm loving it. It's my favorite season. I'd rather draw that than people, and that's what we're going to do. But I do think it'll be a fun challenge to see if I can only use these colors. I have other Luminance colors. I bought this set so that I could expand my collection of Luminance, but I'm going to try to see if I can only use these colors because I love me a good limited color palette challenge. So that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be a pretty laid-back video. I'm just going to be drawing me some squash and talking about it and talking about the beautiful colors, and we're going to have a good fall time. So let's get to it. So for this piece, I am working on some Canson Me Tints paper, and I am working on the smooth side. This is the color Champagne. Gives a nice overall warm feeling to the background, and it kind of brings the whole piece together. That's one reason why I like to work on colored paper. I usually try to choose a color that's going to match the overall theme of the piece. That way there, it serves as a nice backdrop to harmonize with the piece and just kind of bring it all together. And since this is a fall piece, I wanted to have a nice warm feeling to it. I am coming in as per usual and doing the leaves in the background. I am working on pretty much doing some sort of negative drawing first. So I'm looking at those little shadow areas and drawing some of my negative shapes, and then I'm coming in and doing my positive shapes after. And I find that works really well when there is a lot going on in a piece. It can become overwhelming when you have a lot of detail, so it's nice to just break things down into smaller shapes and piece them together like puzzles. I do that a lot when I'm working on a piece like this that is realistic and has a lot of detail. And then I come in and refine after. Now, these pencils are well known for their blendability and the fact that the entire line is light fast. So I don't really feel like I need to do a full review on these pencils because they're so popular in the colored pencil realm. But basically, these are soft and blendable, but they are strong enough that they're not going to break on you like some of the other softer pencils out there. They are a good, rugged pencil. But there are times when it can dull down pretty fast, the tip of the pencil that is, and so it can be difficult at times to keep a sharp point on them. Usually when I am working with a soft pencil like this, I will use a harder pencil with it to do the details and maybe even to do like a ground color. So a lot of times I will use my Faber-Castell Polychromos alongside my Luminance pencils for that reason. And it's not that I can't get fine detail. Obviously, I'm going to be getting a lot of fine detail here, but it's much easier with an oil-based pencil such as a Faber-Castell Polychromos. But I was determined to use colors only from this set, so I am just using these pencils alone. So the ways that I found to try and combat the pencil lead wearing down too fast, as per usual, as always when I'm working with my colored pencils, I try to rotate the pencil in my hand so that the tip will wear evenly, and that will help keep it sharper longer, but I'm really trying not to waste too much of the core. So I basically sharpen when I need my highest details, but When I'm working in the areas that I know I'm going to blend out a lot, I am, again, rotating the pencil as much as I possibly can so that I can get that sharp tip into the grooves of the paper first. And then I am letting the pencil be a little bit duller for subsequent layers because I know it's going to be a layering game anyways. And then I'm blending things out with some of the Prismacolor colorless blender markers and a little bit of I feel like it might have been a Prismacolor blending pencil because I don't know what happened to my Caran blending pencil. Other than that, it's mostly just these pencils. I was worried I would have to bring in a black or a white, and I did not have to. So let's talk a little bit more about this color selection. This set was released a while back as an expansion to their line that they already had out. I feel like they could have named it something different. It's not that these colors couldn't be used in portraits. As again, I do have experience with portraits in the past. I don't do it as often anymore. All of these colors could be used in portraits. There are some beautiful pinks and beiges and light purples. And then, of course, the greens and the blues and the deeper reds and purples and things like that could be used for fantastic shadow colors and underpaintings for skin tones. These are very beautiful colors for those uses as well. But I do feel like if you're going to name something a portrait set, you should have a very good variety of traditional skin tones in there as well that can, be used for a wide range of different types of people. They could have named this anything. This could have been the earth tone set or autumn set, or there's so many different ways they could have gone with this. I feel like they were like, we need to name this set. Oh, these might be fun for portraits. So let's just name it portrait set. But I feel like they probably should, if they're going to name it that, include some more traditional skin tones with a wider range of skin types. With all that said, it is a beautiful set. So let's take a look at the colors that come in this set. And please forgive me because I will be mispronouncing some of these names. So there's Chromium Oxide Green, Middle Verdigris, Chrysocolla Blue, Ultramarine, Blue de Nimes or Nemes, Indanthrone Blue, Dark Indigo, Carmen Lake, Warm Earth 40%, Terracotta, Herculaneum Red, Violet Pink, Hibiscus Pink, Quinacridone Purple, Anthraquinone Carmine, Dark Cadmium Orange Hue, Medium Cadmium Yellow Hue, Indian Yellow, Butternut, and Pink White. These colors turned out to be perfect for what I'm working on here. But it did also present a challenge for me because I didn't have a really, really dark green. So I had to use my indigo a lot for the crevices in the squash and come over it with my other greens and yellows to kind of get that green look. And that was actually a fun challenge for me. That's one of the things that I love about working with a limited color palette. It gives me the chance to do some creative problem solving with color mixing and deciding how to create emphasis with the colors that I have and how they will interact with one another. The squash themselves are actually like this green-white color, and I didn't have a white in this set. So I had to use the pink white, which my squash aren't pink, but on that yellow paper, it works really, really well. And I, again, was loving the indigo. I used a lot of the indigo in this, honestly, because I used it for all the dark shadow areas as well. And I layered other dark colors on top of it because I enjoy a nice, dynamic, colorful shadow. And I was able to do that perfectly here. I really loved the deep red that came in this set. Initially, when I first bought the set, looking at the colored tip of the pencil, I thought it was going to be a dark brown. It was not. It's a dark red. But I mixed that with the terracotta and yellows, and I was able to get some beautiful earthy browns doing it that way. And if all else failed, I could mix it with a little bit of green to dull things out and make it a little bit more gray. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, all of this is relative to me because I have other Luminance pencils that I'm going to mix these in with. So there's not going to be other times when I only use this set. I bought it as an extension for the pencils that I already had from the Luminance line. Actually, I think a couple of these colors I bought in the past open stock when they first released these colors. And again, these colors have been out for years now. But when they first released these colors to extend their line, I did buy a couple of them open stock. A couple of I think the indigo and the Chrysocolla blue. And I may have gotten a couple others at the time. I don't remember now. But eventually I decided, you know what the heck? They're all light fast. I'm just gonna get the set. And so here we are. And I did actually use each color in this piece, even in places where it's not quite so obvious. So the leaves have a lot of the terracotta and the deep red, as I mentioned before, but there's a lot of purples and the pale pinks and some of the lighter yellow. And then in the squash themselves, I already mentioned that I used a lot of indigo, I used the greens, and I used the yellows. But then you'll see in the reflected light and in some of the shadow areas, I also used some of the more, you know, washed out pink color and purples and blues again, because this picture was taken outside. So some of the shadow areas actually have a lot of blue in them. So I found a use for every color in this set, and it was a lot of fun because it allowed me to mix things and it allowed me to use a lot of different colors in areas that I typically would only have to use one or two. And so it really made me break out of my shell and get a little bit adventurous with my use of color as well. And because I used a lot of the same colors throughout the entire piece, I really tried to balance the colors that I was using. It came together as an overall cohesive composition color-wise, and I'm pretty proud of that as well. You will also see me come in here and there with a craft knife. It's a ceramic craft knife, and I use that to scrape out some details. And because these build up pretty fast, they don't have a lot of wax bloom, but they do feel quite waxy once you start putting down the layers. It makes it so easy to scrape off things for detail. So you're going to see a lot of that in leaves and in areas like the stem. And then in other places, for some of the veins of the leaves, I used like a dotting tool, like, you know, one of those wooden styluses, to indent the paper before I laid the color over. So that way there, the color of the paper kind of showed through in those areas and made it look like the veins of the leaves. Now, I normally would have used my Holbein melts to blend this out, but for some reason, Holbein melts does not play well with the Caran d'Ache Luminance. A lot of the Caran d'Ache products, it just, you know, they don't blend out. I don't have that issue with any other brand with the melts, but for some reason the melts doesn't seem to blend the Caran d'Ache products out very well. So that's why I am using a colorless alcohol marker for most of the blending. I didn't feel like bringing out my Zest It. I hadn't brought it out in a while, and I didn't feel like dealing with that. And I have gotten away from using odorless mineral spirits because the vapors are still harmful even though they're odorless, so I'm trying to find healthier ways to blend my work. And these pencils also blend really well on their own by burnishing. However, I was experiencing a little bit of arm pain when I was doing this. It's been a long time since I've done just 100% colored pencils. A few years ago, I did have an injury at work that caused some tendonitis in my arm, and now it flares up a little bit. So even though these were soft and blendable, there were times when I was dealing with a little bit of pain that I normally wouldn't with something this soft. And so that was kind of a bummer, but I loved how it was coming out and it worked up really fast. And it really didn't take long to get the layers down because these pencils are fantastic in that way. So thankfully, the pencils did a lot of the work for me. Had I been working with my polychromos, which I don't work with as often anymore because those bother my arm much more quickly than the softer pencils, it would have been it would have taken me a lot longer because I would have had to take a lot of breaks. But this didn't actually take me too long to do. I'd say probably around 3 to 4 hours in all, but I had to take breaks in between and I also had to work in between, so I couldn't just do it for hours at a time. But I'm pretty happy with how quickly it worked up. Again, not a surprise with these pencils, just because of their blendability and their coverage. They're just beautiful in that way. Then there were some areas where I let the paper do a little bit of the work for me. In the pumpkins, I didn't want to cover up the color of the paper completely. I wanted that warmth to really show through. Since I took this reference photo outside and there was sunlight, again, in the shadow areas, there's going to be a little bit of blue because it was blue skies. But for the sunlit areas, I wanted it to be nice and warm. I also kind of wanted it to be really contrasty, like in the dark areas. I liked having the dark shading because it felt very October-y to me, if that makes sense. Actually almost November, really. Like the darkness, I don't know, like I really liked the contrast between the cools and the warm colors that I was able to achieve here, and then the darks and the lights. I feel like it lends itself to a fun fall feeling image. And as you can see, I worked up the pumpkins much the same. I keep calling them pumpkins. They look like little pumpkins to me. They're actually squash, but I keep calling them pumpkins, even like when I'm talking to my husband about them. But I worked on each of them much the same. The routine throughout each of these things was the same, very repetitive. I'd come through, get a lot of my shading laid in, obviously get the underpainting done, and then come in with my details, and then blend, and then add more detail as I needed to. And the leaves were, again, worked up using a lot of negative drawing in the background, and then obviously lighter layers first, and coming in with my details and blending and all that. Very much how I typically work on a colored pencil piece. I usually work on the background first and then work on my subject after, and then I'll go through and do touch-ups on all of it just to make sure everything is nice and cohesive. I am really, really impressed with, again, the variety of color that I was able to get with just these pencils. Even though a lot of them are like this earthy kind of color to begin with, so it lends itself perfectly to this kind of piece, I still feel like there's just so much color payout. I don't know. It's just very exciting to me, and I'm really excited to put these in my drawer and to be able to work with them with the rest of my luminance down the line. Though I think coming up, I'm going to start doing a lot more mixed media with my colored pencil. I want to experiment a lot more with underpaintings, with watercolors and pan pastels. These are things I've done in the past, but I really want to see what I can do mixed media-wise, because I'm really loving a lot of different materials right now, and I want to see what I can do to combine them. Coming in and doing the last little bit of details on this squash. I was also watching Gilmore Girls while I was doing this. For some reason, in the fall, I feel like rewatching Gilmore Girls. What's your favorite go-to TV show that you could watch over and over again? Because that is one for me. And then I also love my Golden Girls. I just love my gal pal themed sitcoms, I guess. Anyways, I was in my full fall vibes the whole time I was creating this, and it just makes me want to do a lot more fall themed things. So we'll see what comes down the line and what I have time for this season. Let me know what you think of this below, and do you have this set of pencils? If so, have you used it for actual portraits? I do think it would be a great accent color set for portraits. I think the pinks are beautiful and the purples, as I mentioned. I just am like, why name it a portrait? I don't know. I feel like they could have named it something different, but that's my own personal opinion. I loved it for this, and I'm excited to add these colors to my collection and to put them in the rotation and use them from now on. I am so happy with how this came out. This time of year really inspires me. I have to do a new fall piece every year, and I am really happy with how well these colors lend themselves to an autumn-themed piece. All right, folks, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you feel nice and cozy. I love this season. It's my favorite time of year, and I am really excited with how this piece came out. As I mentioned, I love to draw something every year for fall. It's the season that inspires me the most, and I feel like this piece fits right in with the rest of my fall pieces, so I'm super excited about it. And I am happy that I'm going to finally be able to put these colors in with the rest of my luminance and just have them in circulation for future pieces. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. You have a fantastic day. Bye.